Okay, we're live, I think. We got there in the end, buddy. New tech, the fun.
Right. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
man.
everybody's here. This is going to be a lot of fun. What do you think,
Yeah, I'm
Yogi?
excited, man.
Good.
So I watched your talk
Yeah.
on the Summit Lee. Great
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Thank you.
I think the best way to start, isn't it? I think is to introduce people to that, isn't it? And then um, go
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah, for sure. So, for those of you that don't know, last week was the International Healthcare Summit, and it is absolutely amazing. There's 1,000 farriers there, and Jeff Coda is running that, and the American Farriers Journal does it every year. It's a big deal. So cool. There's so many great presentations, and they do a good job of cycling different people through every year. So it's been a lot of fun, and we're going to go through my presentation here, but real quick. The reason why this is so special to me is that, so if you don't know much about my story, I used to shoe at a very low level and didn't realize it clearly. But going to the summit, my family paid for me to go to the summit, and it was a huge game changer and opened my eyes to a lot of things, and got to meet Grant Moon. Didn't know who he was at first. That was really overwhelming, but just realized there was a better way, and it really set me on my path. So going back there and speaking, I've been there a couple times. It's really special to me. So without any more ado, let's jump into this. So one thing that I did at the summit is that I really tried to, I was terrified of what the younger me would have thought when I was there. So I really tried to go after that younger me in the crowd, and there was a lot of presentations that went over people's head, and I said, you're probably going to go under your feet if you're not careful what I'm trying to tell you today. But because I promise you, me 10 years ago, I put a chair up on stage, and then me 5 years ago would have both missed it, and me 2 years ago would have thought they knew, but probably wouldn't have got it either. But anyways, go ahead. And so one thing that I think is happening everywhere on social media is that you have been lied to. And these are pictures of a horse that I shod, and he's actually later in the presentation. But being lied to, if I lied to you, I greatly apologize. It wasn't intentional. But you have to realize what it is. Social media, everybody is putting out their best work, right? Nobody wants to look bad. And I also do not like when people throw other people under the bus, posting pictures of their work. So this is me showing you more failures of what I've done than any of my successes. But I'm ultimately going to show you how to get out of how I got in a hole and how to get out of it. And then Yogi is going to back it up with some deep, in-depth reasons why the feet do what they do. I'm going to talk about practically what happened to these feet, and Yogi is going to go full circle. And our whole goal here, right, Yogi, is just to help horses and people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we just we want to give back. We've both come on long journeys, and that was one of the things I loved about your talk, was talking about the journey, because we're learning every day. So yeah, if we can give back to the community and give back to the horses, then that's fab. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. So this photo, why I'm saying you've been lied to, is because there's no 2 feet that are the same, in my opinion. Very rarely, anyway. Would you agree, Yogi?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do kind of get into a rut of treating all feet the same, but you're definitely right. So,
Right.
but you're absolutely right. Take a moment, and you do notice that there aren't any 2 feet the same, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. So this foot that you're looking at, this is the easy foot. It looks good. It doesn't look good. It looks amazing. This was on a very high profile magazine articles, the whole thing. And when you look at it, it's 50-50 and the proportions are correct. The angle's correct. Everything is good. But the reality is that's the same pictures that you see on Facebook. And that's why I say that you've been lied to, because you might look at somebody's shoeing or somebody's horse's feet and say, man, they don't look like mine. It's because you're seeing the best image. So we're going to go into this. All right. So I'm going to show you a horse. So
you want to start with Junior, or should we go on to the?
Let's just go fast, okay? So
okay,
we'll go through this really quickly. I'm sorry, you can back the video up, but just for the sake of others, I don't want to bore anybody. But just keep going, Yogi. So this horse is a world-class barrel horse. Hold on here. So this horse is a world-class barrel horse, and he actually set an arena record at the NFR. So that's a big deal if you're not in the industry. But what happens is I think that we have a lot of pressure in the industry, whether that's by vets or whether that's by horse owners or by our own preconceived notions, that you have to have a shorter toe. And so you can see how the toe is dubbed off in this. If you look at the dorsal distal toe right there, it is squared plumb off, right? And no sole depth too, as most flat feet. This horse also has, this is the worst foot, and he's very flat. Keep going. So if you look, his feet, they're just not real happy. Keep going. But luckily, after I set the toe back and disintegrated the foot, I'm here to help him and be the savior, and I can cast him. Isn't that cool, Yogi?
Yeah, well, modern materials does make the job easier when you got feet like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to drive home though is at the end of this deal, I want you to realize that despite my best efforts, I want to show you how I set these horses backwards. Did I cripple them? Absolutely not. Did I not give them all I could? Yes. Would the younger me realize any of this? No. So go to the next one. All right. So this is the x-ray of him casted. Everything looks pretty great. You know, if you don't care about the hoof ball and the whole hoof as a capsule, looks pretty dang good. Go ahead. All right. So here is the magic question that I would, if I'm condescending to anybody, I'm just talking to my younger self. Okay. We're just trying to help here. But does setting the shoe back change the palmar angle, Yogi?
No, this is such an important question, and I see it. I see an issue with it all the time, because often when we're setting the shoe back and then, you know, ultimately dubbing the toe back up and those kind of things, aesthetically, you know, everything looks better. The HPA usually looks better, this, that, and the other. But as the question is implying, actually, we don't change the PA at all by setting shoes back. You have to think about things in 3 dimensions if you want to move the PA. So it's a really good question, because I think as an industry we get so obsessed with base proportions and the length of the toe, forgetting about the third axis, which makes all the difference, in my opinion. I don't know
what do you mean by that?
Well, if you're only thinking about the length of the toe versus the length of the heels, then you're only thinking in 2 dimensions on a 3-dimensional object, right? Because you have to consider the phalangeal alignment,
meaning the bony column, column alignment.
Right, exactly. You have to consider the bony column alignment and PA when you're looking at balance. And so often the industry gets caught up on simply base proportions. But that's not balance. Balance is a 3-dimensional spatial relationship. It's about how all of the different internal and external points line up with one another, not simply base proportions. So
absolutely, yeah. In short, couldn't I summarize that by saying you don't get to pick one; it all matters.
Absolutely. And part of the job is understanding, you know, which parts actually need addressing. You know, so often we say, "Oh, this horse has got a long toe." Actually, the toe ain't long. The toe's not long at all. Just the heels are too low. It's basic. It's basic. It's basic trigonometry. You know, if I have my phone pitched at this angle, then that's the length of my base. If I have my phone pitched at this angle, my base is shorter. So, you know, so often we're calling these things long toe. In reality, we should be leaving the toe alone and dealing with the actual issue, which is the height at the back of the foot.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I always say, especially in negative plantar angles, is that it's not the toe's fault that the heels are failing. Well, you know, yeah, you do need to trim it good, you need to fit it good, but you don't need to cause harm to the toe because of the heels, trying to make it make sense to your eye, don't you think?
Yeah, well, in England, I don't know if you have it in America, we say, "Don't rob Peter to pay Paul."
Yep.
You have the same thing, yeah. So
Yeah.
and that's what happens, right? We have a compromised back of the foot, so the front of the foot looks long. So we rob the front of the foot to try and make it all look better, and all we're doing is further compromising the hoof.
Absolutely. Let's move on. All right, so this is just a longer version of that horse at the end of the cycle. You can see that he's still not positive, and then we get the shoes off him and we trim him down. Keep going. Yeah. All right. So back up one time. Okay. So here is the thing. All right. So this is super cool. Talking to my younger self again here. So in the search of knowledge, you know, like I've consulted several people and really tried to get some help. Well, years ago, I hired Mark Caldwell to come over, and he really got into mechanics and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is going to change the world. And so then I tried it. And I mean, my feet looked so long at the end of the cycle. I remember saying, I don't know why everybody didn't fire me. And it was only for one cycle. But then I was like, well, and he was talking about rockers and he's this and that or whatever. So I was like, well, clearly those are stupid. So rockers are out. So then we go on with life for a few years. And then Grant comes along and is a big influence in my life and stuff. And what I'm about to show you in the next couple slides is pretty much sums up this whole conversation. So if you don't hear anything else, pay attention now. Okay, look at this palmar angle right now. Bony column alignment looks pretty good. Next slide. Why did it get worse after we shot him? Because there's a trim under that. So it really had nothing to do with the rockers. And the take-home message is that you can do whatever rocker, roller, pad, breakover, wedges. You can do it all. But don't forget about the trim under it. And the 10-year-old me and the 5-year-old me would say, yeah, I know. But it's a deeper understanding. And go to the next slide. Bingo. So that took just a couple minutes, but all I did was pull the shoe off, adjust my trim, and magically it's better. So shoe didn't change at all. Nothing changed except the trim. And hands down, the most important part is learning how to trim that. So when you're diving into this stuff, application is always more important. And I like to quote my buddy Blaine Chapman. He always says that there isn't a single horseshoe out there that's crippled a horse. It's an application every time.
Absolutely. I want to say something on the trim because this is something, because I've got a lot of experience now going around the world doing clinics, and generally they bring you the worst feet in the country and say, like, fix these for the clinic. It's good fun. But something that I've always noticed is how shocked everyone is with the amount of toe that I take off in my trim. And usually I very rarely touch much of the heel unless they're folded. But there seems to be this thing in the industry, and I'll put it to you and see if you agree or not, where you have to trim to the widest point of the frog every time, right? and for me, it's like, hang on a minute. If your heels are good and strong, then we know from studies, Van Heel et al., Molman, all these different studies that tell us that over a shoeing cycle, you lose 3 to 4 degrees, right? What does that tell you? That tells you that the foot functionally is growing more toe during a cycle, right?
Right.
Because that's so why is it that when we come back and trim, we trim a level trim from the heels all the way around the toe? Our trim should be mirroring or in opposition the growth during the cycle. So you have to change your trim plane, right? You have to trim heavier on the toe, lighter on the heels, because it's mirroring the effects of growth through the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And also I found, like, I don't understand this. I do understand it to a certain extent about trimming to the widest point of your frog, because it's about re-establishing base proportions. But again, for me, that's only two-dimensional thinking if you're not also considering PA at the same time, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a balance to be had between bringing the base proportions back versus breaking your PA, breaking your hoof pastanaxis, breaking your Bowley alignment. So, like I said, very often I'm presented with negative palmar angles or negative plantar angles, and people are wanting to put all kinds of different packages on it, when actually, in reality, all it needs is a good old trim on the toe. And you can't put a package on to save a poor trim. It all has to start with the trim.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And actually, I laughed as soon as you said that, because as soon as I got done with my presentation, I don't know about you, but every single one I've done, I'm like, should have said that. Should have said that. So heel length is one thing, like, is been a big thing for me over the last few years. And I've heard so many people say that last farrier cut all the heel off, and then you look at it and the toe is so long, there's so much distortion, there's so many other things. I came a point in my life where I could swear I could hear it in my sleep, like, don't touch the heel.
Yeah.
It was just like, that is the dumbest thing ever, right? So I kind of got into this mentality to where you trim the heels back to the widest part of the frog on everything. And honestly, I think it holds horses back from growing healthy heel. And, well,
it doesn't necessarily hold them back, but what you're doing every time is you're trimming off any healthy heel that it did grow.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
you just had this thing that's going to get you out of these wedges or these pads or whatever. And it's like, it's going to chop it right back off. So when I got to understanding that, I think that was also a big moment. And that's one thing I left out, but it's all just part of the package, Couldn't agree more.
Yes, so important, definitely. Right. We carry on, shall we?
Yeah. So this, back up one time. So I referenced a lot of my mentors and heroes in this, and this is Dusty Franklin. And ultimately, he said, you don't want to be a farrier with 1 year of education for 20 years of experience. Don't be the same farrier every year. Going back to the basics is always key. I truly believe certifications and competitions will set you apart and help you on that journey. So I quoted a lot of other people in here. And I mean, every person that I want to be like, and like you, Yogi, and all these other people, they're all winners. They're all, let's get better. My pet peeve is the guy that advertises on Facebook and says 50 years of experience. Are you kidding me? 50 years of experience, or whatever it is, 20, 10, 5, when they did a 6-week shoeing school 40 years ago. So let's move on. But
yeah,
I just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, it's so true.
Okay, so look at this foot. Okay, so this is a really nice barrel horse as well. And he has high-low feet, and he has one really great foot, and it ain't this one. And I could show you pictures of the other foot, and you'd be like, oh, what a great job. And just like we see on Facebook all the time, that is what you see. But the other foot is the one that's going to get you fired. This foot right here. So go on. So this is what we did. Originally when we met this horse, he was so low in his heels. He had so much going on. So this is a big part of the talk, Yogi, and I really want you to dive into this in a second. But
Yeah.
how I show you the result of this horse, this really helped. This was a game changer. And I think realizing what horse you're shoeing is huge. Yes, I might be shoeing a world-class barrel horse, but not today, right? Today, on this day, I'm shoeing a lame horse. I'm doing a struggling horse, an underperforming horse, whatever buzzword you want to use. This horse needs some help. So just like Ramon Batella asked me at the summit, he said, well, what do you do with distorted feet? It's like, well, you got to find a way to add some depth in the healthy part of the foot. And then once you grow out of that, you can have something to work with and step down in packages. But in reality, I look at this as a prosthetic. I want to make him feel better while growing a healthier foot. You go, Yogi.
Well, I want to pick up on the main thing that I think you said there, which is you have to know what horse you're shoeing at that point in time, because I've been guilty in the past of being absolutely obsessed with 50-50 around the center of rotation, this, that, and the other. And since then, I've learned a lot more about biomechanics and ground reaction forces and how different base proportions interact with the ground. And it's made me realize that we have to understand ground reaction forces in order to know what shoe to apply to the horse for what it's doing now. You don't shoe a horse that has compromised heels the same way as you shoe a horse that is performing tomorrow on a polo pitch or in a barrel race or whatever, because the biomechanics that you use for those are almost opposing, right? And I think we do get caught up. Well, some guys don't think about the proportions they're creating at all,
Right.
but some guys get so obsessed with one set of proportions being the absolute for every horse,
Right.
and
Guilty.
that's not the case, because the case is that when you actually, and we'll go into it later, when you actually understand how the different proportions and different setups change how the horse interacts with the ground, you understand that some packages are designed for building mass, repairing the foot, and some packages are built for performance and making sure that that interaction with the ground is optimum for the horse to perform. And we'll get into that more later, but I think that's a really important sentence that you said there. Know what kind of horse you're shoeing this time. Are you shoeing a horse that's going out to perform tomorrow, that needs grip, that needs purchase, that needs the correct orientation of the hoof on a soft surface? Or are we shoeing a horse that currently needs its foot to be rehabilitated, that needs more mass to be encouraged? You need to know what kind of foot, what kind of job we're doing today. So that's a really, really important point.
Absolutely. Let me ask one more question into that, then let's move on. So
yeah,
in my opinion, and I'm not trying to get in the vet's lane at all here. I'm just saying I have noticed that horses that are like this, or that are horses that have any type of issue, lameness, if it's in the hoof capsule itself, inflammation is a huge problem too. So when you get that horse whatever he needs, it's going to take a week or 10 days to get him exactly where you want him. What are your thoughts on that? I always say this. I say the hoof capsule is like a head injury. It has nowhere for the inflammation to go. So that's why it's so painful. And I really feel like step one, fix a problem. Step two, give them a minute.
yeah, and that's really important and that, again, that's the difference between the horse that you're shoeing at that time, right? Because if you're shoeing something that's in pain, that has inflammation, that you're setting up for improvement over a cycle, that's very different from a horse that you've got to keep sound today because it's performing tomorrow. But absolutely, there's always, whenever you, especially, so the more aggressive the the application, the more time you have to give them. Like you
Right.
have to. If I'm doing big changes to a foot, I'll always say, listen, you've got to give this horse some time. This horse needs to go through a period of rehabilitation now. And it comes down to the same sentence. It's like the whole team has to understand what the horse is doing at this point in time, whether it's performing or getting better. So yeah, absolutely, completely agree with you.
All right, move on. Okay, so all right, so just go back for me one time, Yogi. All right, so you see this, right? Go back one more. Okay, so look at this palmar angle right here. Look at this bony column alignment. He is broke back, but what you see, see, I'm a practical guy, and Yogi is going to give us the exact reasons why. But when I look at this foot, the main problem I see is the depth under the very palmar process of the wings of the coffin bone, the very back of the bony column, right? So it is falling down, and that's why we don't have a positive angle. That's why we don't have a bony column alignment. So it is falling down. So go forward. Now we've got it wedged up. We've got it floated. We've got the toe back. We've got the rocker or the roller shoe, must at equilibrium. Now go next. Now look how much depth is at the back of that foot. That is not a wedge. That is a slight, well, it's not a normal wedge. The other one was a 3D wedge. This is a leather wedge pad, which is not very much. But look how positive it is at the back half of the foot. Do that one more time, Yogi. Go back 2 and then go forward 2. Okay, look at that angle. Look at that angle. Look at that angle. That, to me, is the secret sauce in getting these horses into a normal shoe. So you see how much depth is at the back half of the foot? That's all healthy heel growth for the most part. And this is what my main guy, Jeb Hunt, did. He's been with me for nearly 6 years. He did this shoeing, and I am so proud of him. Like, he got the angles right. He got the leverage off the toe, but he fit the toe, and we actually have some depth. Now go forward again. That set us up for this. Now go again. Bam. So even barefoot, you back it up.
Oh, yep.
It's positive. It's got some depth at the back of the foot, and then we shoe it. Go forward. That, everybody looks at this and they're like, I told you that horse didn't need pads. You get a horse from another farrier or whatever. It's like, yeah, now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, right? This like, it goes back to that same sentence again. Like, sometimes you need to shoe them in a certain package to get the changes that you want to get, so that they can move out of the rehabilitation phase into the performance phase.
Yeah.
And that's I also do this. I do a lot of barefoot transition, right? So let's look at this. If we look at this foot here, you imagine trying to get that horse to go barefoot. That ain't gonna happen, is it? Because it's got no sole depth. The back of his foot's completely gone. Oh, Lee, where have you gone? I'm hoping Lee's going to come back. How long do I wait? Bear with us, folks. I'm hoping he's going to get back. Let me message him. Okay, right. Anyway, I'll carry on. So this is something that I very often do. So if we look at this foot, we can imagine, I like I said, I do a lot of barefoot transition. you can imagine this foot is not really going to cope going barefoot. So often I'll actually use these kind of packages to build up the back of the foot to eventually take the shoes off and let it go barefoot. So sometimes it comes back to what the horse is trying to achieve at that point in time. Do we need to create improvements in morphology, or are we focusing on performance at this time? And this will all become clearer to everybody as we go on, because the point that Lee's going to get to is that these horses were performing better in a different type of shoe, and I'm hoping that he's going to come back on. So let's see if I can.
Hello.
He's back. Could you hear what I was saying, or do I?
Yeah, you're doing
okay,
good. Keep going.
Yeah. So I'll let you carry on to getting onto your point about changing the shoe package. Now let's go. I'll give it back to you.
All right. So this is where the story is about to get exciting. Okay. So we've got this foot lined out right here. We've got some depth at the palmar process. Now go forward. Got him good in the barefoot. Now go again. Now he is good. He is out of pads. Hallelujah. Everything is great. Well, this went along pretty good, and this horse competed all summer long, all different rodeos, going fast, did good. But the problem is that this horse wants to pull shoes. He really needs shod with more length, and that's where shoeing around center rotation, I don't think really does them a service, because we can't put enough on him. So go ahead. Okay. Jake Whitman, good buddy of mine, Weatherford, Texas. He said one time, show me a farrier that's good at fixing an issue, and I'll show you a guy that's good at creating an issue. Yeah, I remember him saying that, and I was like, man, what a jerk. But he didn't say that to me. He just said that in general. Now go forward. What is happening? It's not as positive as it used to be. Doesn't have as much depth at the palmar process, right? Go again.
I don't think videos play on this.
One more. Go again. Oh, okay. Go back. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, he's lame. He is dang it lame. He is team roper lame. He's lame. So go again. So guess what happened? We're going to all these rodeos. He's going fast. I'm shoeing him cold. I start pulling his foot back a little bit more, shoeing him a little tighter, a little bit more, shoeing him tighter. I don't have a forge. I got a list of excuses why I didn't shoe him good. The reality is that I created heel pain by coming off the toe and shoeing him a little shorter than I probably should have. Well, saying that, I've seen a lot more problems with coming off the toe than I have with shoeing him short. But the good news is, if there's good news, I know how to fix him, because I already fixed him, and I get to be the hero to my own shoeing. So I don't know. It's kind of ironic, but
yeah.
Go ahead again.
The thing is, though, I think the reality is that there's something else that we have to be conscious of here, and that is when you shoe in horses in these packages, you are returning a lot of function to the foot. Yeah, we're returning a lot of function to the back of the foot. When we shoe them without the pads, unless the foot is very robust, it's inevitably going to trickle backwards in terms of heel quality and heel strength and those kind of things. It's always going to happen, no matter how well you shoe them or how badly you shoe them. The unintended consequences of an open heel shoe is always going to potentially be there. And then when you restore the engagement of the back of the foot, you restore the natural better function and those kind of things, you do get the improvements again. So it's not a case of you fixing your own bad shoeing. It's a case of, this is a cyclic thing that happens when you take pads off and put them back on, because as soon as you take them back off, you're losing the functionality. So it's a thing that happens regardless of the shoeing as well. I think we have to be aware of that too.
Yeah, for sure. It can be part of it for sure. Okay, let's go forward. All right, so this is just how I like to shoe these horses, and I've really grown out of using a lot of aluminum breakover shoes. Definitely open-heeled wedges, but that's a whole nother video right there. But I feel like this shoeing right here, if you back up one more time for me, I feel like this is a really great shoeing. I feel like he has support at the back half of the foot, even though I don't like saying support. You can see that we gave him artificial depth at the back half of the foot. That's what I mean. So we've got the momentum arm of that long toe that he has on this foot. We've got that rockered into his foot. What you don't see that I'm going to really want you to know that I'm going to show you on the next horse is the salad bowl modification. And ultimately, it's not rocket science, okay? Use any shoe you want. I prefer the 1.0 Eventer. It's probably older than I am, but the reason was because it's got a rolled edge all the way around, and then it's a little bit wider shoe. So flat shoe is like this. I'm just asking you to make it like a bowl. It's been around since the dark ages, but go forward. So you can see how it is. I've got him rockered right in the center of the toe pretty much, and that is just to help with it. But if you look on the widest part of the foot, I've tried really hard to fit this foot and get around the outside of it. And but if you look on the outside, it's still, the whole shoe is kind of like a bowl. So more to come on that. Go ahead. All right, so you can't see this video, but this was literally the next day with no butte or anything, and this horse was completely sound. What a hero. But he had a sore heel, and I put my hoof testers on it, and he was so sore. And you could see it in the video before that I showed at the summit. But ultimately, it's therapeutic farriery. You know, like if there's a problem, we take the pressure off of it, but in this case, floating the foot and the pad, putting pressure on the frog with dental impression material and a 3D pad, and the horse feels like he has a good foot. And while that's growing out, now the process starts over where it's going to be salad bowl, rocker toe, 3D pad, and then leather wedge pad, and then no pad. And we're going to get into why on the next horse. Go ahead. So, it always makes me laugh. So Austin Edens did a presentation at the AFA convention, and he said some stuff that 10 years ago me and 5 years ago me would have just thought it was absolutely stupid. He said, the longer I shoe horses, the more I realize I don't know, and early on I knew everything. And farriery is easy to learn, hard to master. That's all positive. But what he said that I didn't agree with is he said, when I was setting shoes back, they looked better at the beginning and worse at the end of the cycle. And now, since I don't do that, they look better at the end of the cycle and not as good at the beginning of the cycle. And I was like, that makes no sense. That is silly. But let's move on. Any thoughts on that before we move on, Yogi? Briefly, we'll dive into it in a minute.
Well, on what Austin Edens said.
Yeah.
Well, not particularly, but that is definitely something I judge my shoeing on. That's for sure. is what it looks like when I come back, not what it looks like the day that I left it. I think that and that's. I mean, we're going to get into things like taking the toe back too much, quarters back too much, all those kind of things. And sometimes you can make a foot look amazing on the day, and then you come back 6 weeks later and everything's popped over the top of everything and all that. He's absolutely right. I mean, what it looks like when you come back is the important thing.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Judge anybody else's shoeing at the end of the shoeing cycle, but you can be super critical of yours.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so this horse we've had for 5 years. Here, back up 1 second, please.
Oh, yeah.
So This is at Pendleton Roundup, arguably the hardest place to run barrels ever on a horse. It's a 28-second pattern is what wins it. 29 seconds is a good run. That is 10 seconds longer, 11 than most standard patterns. So this horse placed in both rounds 2 years in a row, won the short round this year. He is absolutely amazing. This is my wife's horse. This is easy. And when we bought him, the vet said he's pre-navicular. I said, what? He said he's pre-navicular. I said, is he navicular? He said, no. I was like, then what is pre-navicular? Well, he's probably going to have navicular. And then I sent the x-rays over from the pre-purchase over to Dr. Sammy Pittman, good friend of mine. And he said, any horse that's shod like that is pre-navicular. So take home message. He just has feet that are long, that are just want to be a little more flat, you know, and they just need exactly what we're talking about. And I'm going to show you some successes and some failures, and this is the real take-home message here. But there's more to the story. He's hard on his feet. Go ahead. He pees in the same spot every single time. He steps forward from his hay bag, pees, and then backs up, stands in his pee, eats his hay bag every single day. Okay, next. Oh, you can't watch this video. Oh, man, he was hungry right here. This was super funny. He was hungry right here, and he was just messing around. He's pretty funny. And then go again. You're not going to see this video. He weaves, too, and that is also hard in his feet. And I think a lot of times horse owners fail to remember the whole story. Like, just there's always more to the story, you know, than that x-ray or than just looking at that foot. And that's why I brought that up. Go ahead. So here is the big thing. Okay, my wife is trying to make the national finals rodeo in the barrel racing. So stakes are high. Things are hard. Okay. And if you look at this foot, this was the horse that I said had the perfect foot at the first x-ray when I said that you've been lied to. This is the other foot. I think it looks pretty good too, don't you, Yogi?
Yeah, it's a nice looking foot, yeah.
With the pads on and the breakover shoe. The problem is, though, is that historically, in my opinion anyway, horses, about 50% of them at best, can handle running at a high level in pads, barrel horses, because the foot sinking in the ground is so important. So you add a frog support pad, now you have even less sink into the ground. So I have shod this horse literally every way under the sun that you can think of. If it came to your mind, I probably tried it. So if it deals with breakover, frog support, helping with thin soles, we've done it. Okay, so you can see right here that he does have thin soles, but everything is set up good. So we've tried half pads, full pads, every sort of pad. So go ahead. That's a different kind of shoe, different pad, and that's a half pad right there. You can tell that's a half pad cut out, and you can tell that he still has not a lot of sole depth, great angle, the whole thing. But what you can see is the squared off toe on the front, and to me, that's where these horses really get hard, because it's like, oh, you just pull him back a little bit. You know, you got the pressure, you don't want to lose the client, so on and so forth. So we do this, right? It's just a slippery slope when it's my wife. So go again. All right, so this is a good take-home message of this horse. So he just wants to grow a little more toe, wants to be flat, doesn't have a lot of sole depth. So whenever we would pull the pads off, he would just run his butt off, but he would get heel pain. Would he ever be lame? No. Would he ever he doesn't have navicular. This horse, one time, somebody tried to buy him for a lot of money, and he passed a 4.5-hour vet check. Does he have navicular? No, he doesn't. I can tell you. They ultrasounded and x-rayed every single thing on it. So this is a pretty good case study. What was truly happening with this horse, I think, is that I wasn't truly making the hoof capsule healthy. Maybe it was the weaving. Maybe it was the peeing, standing in his pee. Yeah, I'm sure it all didn't help. But I can tell you one thing. He's not wearing pads now, not wearing breakover shoes, And what I did is I had a better trim, I had a better fit, started feeding him platinum. Those are the three things that changed from all of this and got us out of pads. So go ahead. Okay, another trial and error right here. I think that looks like a wedge shoe, and got him brought back off the toe. Once again, no sole depth. And one thing, I wish I had more actual foot pictures of this horse, but the reality is you don't take pictures of feet when you're not proud of them. It's like, get the shoes off, let's move on, let's make it better. So go ahead. All right, so same story, back to the breakover shoes, back to the half pads, it looks like, and go again. So you can tell the feet do good in pads, but on this one, you can see I let the toe go forward a little bit too much, squared it off again. So go again. So this is over several years. So this is from 22 to 26. So there it is, flat, no sole depth, long toe. Go again. So same exact thing. It's just covered up with the breakover shoe and a pad right here, right? So, which is great. You know, like some horses, they just do good in this setup, and that's what they need. You know, like if you find what works, go on with your bad self. But here's the pressure of this situation. Running just a little bit slower, what my wife is trying to do, you might as well not even show up. So we had to figure out how to make this work. And it's one of those stories, you know, like all three of these horses where they challenged you. You might have wished they'd have fired you at some point so you could move on and be somebody else's problem. But in reality, I learned a lot. Go again. Yep. 25, 15, 24, still flat, long toe. We're about to make some changes though. Go ahead, Yogi. All right. It's not today though. So this was the point where I tried handmade concave, and we put some sort of a pad on him, but you can tell I came off the toe, and the toe is non-existent right there. So you can tell it's broke up. Go again. All right, go again. We're getting positive. Go again. So this is, if you back up, we're missing some stuff. I mean, you got to think we went over like 4 years right here, so, or 3 years, whatever. So we're actually getting some sole depth, and it's positive now. So we are in a good spot. If you want to get a horse out of this stuff, you have to get to this spot. You got to rehab the back half of the foot and then move forward. So go forward. Bam. Now it's just like the other horse. We've got a salad bowl with a rocker toe, and this horse has been like this since this time. So that's what is that, year and 2 months. So exactly. So that to me is the take home message of that. Some horses can get out of pads, and some horses can't. And we can hide behind what is the reality there. But I have proved that was the factor here. I mean, yes, we did start giving them platinum about the same time, and I think that does grow healthier hoof. But I think that hitting the foot, especially in the toe quarters and the toe, properly is the take-home message paired with the right heel length. Go again. Yep, look at that. So here's when the proof is in the pudding. You know, when you're at the end of the cycle and he's still positive and you have sole depth, that says everything I need to know about if I'm doing the right thing right. And if you look once again at the Palmar process of the foot, it has so much depth, and that's why the bony column alignment is in line, and that's why you have a positive PA. What do you think, Yogi?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the back of the foot, but it's also, as we're going to get onto, is you can see how much more integrity of the dorsal wall you've got there as well. And right. So that's what we're going to get onto, because that's really important for me. So let's creep forward, and then we'll get there in a minute. Yeah.
Good. Perfect. All right. So yeah, he's still doing good right here, and maybe even better. If you really want some practical advice from me, I had to be okay with a slightly longer toe. And this is the take-home message at the end, where we're going to talk about the difference between center of rotation, which I was after, and something else. Keep going. Yep, still looking good. So take-home message is that I think radiographically I've proved that I can maintain him as good or better getting with a good trim and fit. And you could say, oh, that's good. But something else? Well, tell me one thing. How do you get that healthy of a back half of a foot, and how do you get more sole depth? This was a horse where you just used a brush on the sole, and now you actually have to knife him. So to me, that means there's a lot less flattening out of the hoof capsule, and it's actually getting some strength and depth. Go again. Yep, still good. And that is the end of the cycle. Yes, it's not positive, but it's because this horse went long right here. But look at that sole depth. To me, that is one of the most telling pictures in this whole thing, where you do a better job on the feet and they get healthier. Fit the foot, especially the toe quarters and the toe, and a good trim and magic happens. Go again. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Before trim. And I don't want to leave a horse like that, but you can see I had to take some sole out. That is awesome. And then pair it with a nice shoeing. And there we go. So what you have on these two lines right here is the center of rotation is not. I'm wrapping up right here, and then Yogi's going to dive into this. So the center of rotation is the center mark of the coffin joint. That's how the hoof swings. So it's pretty easy to say that we need the same from the end of the heel to the center of rotation to the point of breakover. But when I started not pursuing that as hard without pads, magically these horses started doing better. So we're going to have, if you look at this, there's a mark in front of center of rotation, and that is actually 50-50. So I'm going to show you a whole new thing to look at. So you can't see the video.
We can't see the videos.
Okay. All right, freeze on this. So you can't see the videos, but I can show you one thing right here, that if you're wondering about how to help your horses more, really be hard on your shoes that you pull off. So I told a story at the summit that I walked down the sidewalk these clients built years ago, and it had all my old shoes on it, and they did not look like this. The toes were way wider than the heels. And now, if you look at these, yeah, they're bolder toes, but the toenail to heel is the same. Toenail to heel is the same. That is a healthy foot. And if your toes are really wide, heels are not, you have a problem. Mainly because of, if you back up, so this is Yogi's slide. So I didn't want to talk about the soft tissue effects right here, but Yogi is about to. If you aren't careful, when those horses' feet get in soft footing, a whole nother function happens, and that is called ground force reaction. And it is crucial. It's really important. That's why frog support pads do so well on horses with issues on the back half of their foot. They'll look like the first picture like this. The heels will not sink in. And that's why if you've got a long toe, the heels will sink in and the toe will not. So shoe placement, foot placement, and how it reacts with the ground is crucial. Go again. This is the last slide. Cold hard facts. This is what I learned. And if I could sit down with myself 10 years ago, I would be very stern about this. If you don't fit the toe, you will have heel failure. If you can't use your toenails, you set the shoe back too far. Breakover does matter. You know, like we can have the arguments, you know, about how every foot needs this or that, whatever. The reason in the Western industry why so many people bring the foot back, like natural balances are really popular, and that's fine. Use whatever you want to use. But if you're not being good to the hoof capsule, you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul. And center of rotation, which is around the center of the coffin joint isn't always ideal. That was the biggest take home I had. Yes, if you're working on a therapeutic horse, very important. Working on a performance horse, you're probably going to have to cheat some places to make that work. And when you look at x-rays, you are just looking at a space in time, not the 3D image. All right, Yogi.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks, buddy. So I wanna have a look at these cold hard facts. That's what I want to look at now. I want to try and work with everybody now to try and work out why these cold hard facts are true, right? So let's add my slides. So I marked up your jobs here. So correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, but this shoeing package is what you said the horse performed the best in.
Yeah? Hands down by far. Yep. Okay. No heel pain, completely sound.
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about mechanics, because there's one thing we have to understand, is that mechanics work depending on the compliance of the surface, right? So if you've got a rocker toe and the horse is sinking into the surface by an inch. Oh, yeah, you use inches in America, huh? An inch. If it sinks into the surface by an inch, your rocker toe is nothing, right? So I wanted to talk about that just slightly. But if we, like you said, if we look at the shoeing package that you created, you shod 50-50 around the point of balance, right? So the point of balance is something that a friend of mine, Uno, and he came up with the physics calculations and those kind of things, and I'm going to talk you through that a little bit here. But you didn't shoe around the center of rotation, you shot around the center of balance. And the other thing is that I noticed is that you left the toe alone. Okay, so you left the integrity of the toe. So in some of the ones where you were backing the toe right up, you can see how the toes deteriorated, and that was your own words. Mm-hmm. For me, the take home is that the horse was performing best in this setup. Okay, so let's address this thing about people's obsession with short toes. Okay, and a lot of it is founded on good information, right? Because the reason that we care about the length of the toe is because the length of the toe affects how much rotational force there is on the limb. Okay, so the longer the toe, the more collapsing force there is on the limb, right, as the horse is moving. The more collapsing force means that there's more strain in the soft tissues of the back of the foot. Okay, so we keep the toe short to reduce this turning, what's called a moment, this moment force. That's why we want short toes. Okay, short toes are good, but just because a short toe is good doesn't mean an even shorter toe is better. And then also, how are we shortening the toe? That's the question, right? Because
bingo.
How are we shortening the toe? Because if you're we're going to look at some more slides in a minute. If you're taking away the integrity of the hoof capsule in order to improve the length of the toe, you're making a big mistake, because you're having an effect on some other things we're going to look at.
Hold on, right there. I'm going to stop you right there. So
yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about is how you shorten the toe, and that was the whole take home of that presentation that we just went over. How are you doing it? Ultimately, years past, I built a business around not over trimming horses, so they immediately did better, but gradually fell apart. So explain that.
Explain what? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'll explain it. How about that? So the reason why Easy, the last horse, did so good is because we trimmed correctly and fit correctly, especially at the toe and the last part of the foot. So the whole hoof capsule is healthy. And but you can leave some depth, slide the shoe back. They'll get along with the negative angle, because sliding it back doesn't make it positive, right? But chopping the toe off makes it appear okay.
Yeah. So another reason why we're obsessed with short toes is because of breakover, right? that's what everyone calls it. Shorten the breakover, shorten the breakover. So the reason we want to shorten the breakover is because if we don't, then the mass of the horse has to go further over the leg before the heels lift off. Okay, so we have a longer lever. So all of the back of the foot, all the ligaments of the back of the foot, the deep digital flex tendon all get straight. It's extra straight. That's another reason why we're obsessed with shortening the toe. But what we have to understand is that there's a balance to be had with everything. Okay, and just because a short toe is good doesn't mean a shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter toe is even better. And this is the thing. This is the thing that we have to understand, right? And what it comes down to, and you touched on it earlier, is about understanding how the different length of toe versus length of heel affects the way the foot interacts with the ground. Okay, so it changes the ground reaction force distributions on the bottom of the foot. Okay, so in the middle, we have the optimum base proportions. When we have the optimum base proportions, then we have even ground reaction forces. Okay, so that means when the weight of the horse comes over that foot, it stays level. If we shorten the toe too much, and this is where it comes to shoeing around center of rotation, actually, if you shoe around center of rotation for that moment in time, you increase the ground reaction forces at the toe. So what we end up with is come back to this slide, right? If we get the correct length of toe and the correct length of heels, we have a situation where the hoof stays level on a soft surface. And this is part of the problem in farriery world, in some of the thinking, is we're so obsessed with static balance and what it looks like on the radiograph that we forget that hoof's got to interact with a soft surface most of the time. And so we forget about what those proportions are going to do on a soft surface. And this is really important when you have a high level performance horse like your barrel horses or like my polo horses, because they need to have a stable base that doesn't pitch in order to perform at their best. They need to understand what the ground's doing underneath them. So that could be part of the reason why when you were shoeing around the point of balance, you were getting better performance out of the horse, because the horse was able to have his foot stay at the right pitch on the soft surface. That could be one of the reasons. But for me, the biggest take-home message was about the integrity of the hoof capsule, and not robbing the toe. And you said, and I said, don't rob Peter to pay Paul. and the thing that you said was, when you were being really hard on the toes to create your 50-50, you were ending up with heel soreness. Is that right?
Right, absolutely.
Right.
Nearly every time.
Yeah, and part of the problem is we need to understand the architecture of the hoof, right? So if we look at this is a hoof, each part of the hoof has a different stiffness. So if we look at the outside of the dorsal wall, the stiffness, let's just use the blue number. The stiffness is 1,000. It doesn't really matter what that is. It's just a measurement of stiffness. It's 1,000. The inner dorsal wall is a stiffness of 523. Now the heels have a stiffness of 657, right? So that architecture, those stiffnesses, is what gives the hoof the natural deformation, that it's supposed to have. That
it's a shock absorber. Yeah.
Yeah. So the natural deformation is what really reduces pressure everywhere, right?
Yeah. Important.
So what happens is if you mess around with this architecture, like dumping the dorsal wall, then all of a sudden you've created a situation where your dorsal wall is more flexible than your heels, right? So now we're messing around with the normal architecture of the hoof. And the problem with this is that it leads to problems. It leads to a foot that's no longer deforming correctly. It leads to increased pressure at the heels, all these kind of things. So we have to respect the natural architecture of the hoof. So when it comes to shoeing 50-50, so this is two of my shoeing jobs, right? So my shoeing job on the left is 50-50 around the point of balance. That's 50-50 around the point of balance because that is a high level competing top athlete polo horse. That's one of the top polo horses on the planet. He's just about to play the Gold Cup final in the UK. Okay.
Wow. Awesome.
So that horse needs to have optimum interaction with the ground. I've spent all season creating a hoof that looks as beautiful as this. At the beginning of the season, we had him 50-50 around center of rotation. We had him with packaging because he came in from the winter with completely flat feet, right? So we spent the beginning of the season creating this foot that enabled us at the end of the season to shoe for optimum ground interaction rather than fixing a foot anymore. Yeah, you're with me. So
that's what I love about you being transparent right here too, and that's what I try to do. And that's the whole point of this thing is you just told people that is a beautiful foot. That isn't good. That is absolutely amazing. But you said it's a road to get there, isn't it?
Yeah. And when it came in from the English winter, we've just had 50 days of rain. Okay. That's the English winter. So this horse came in from the English winter with really flat feet, completely collapsed back of the foot. We had to shoe him 50-50 around the center of rotation to build up the back of the foot because at that time we were fixing a foot. Yeah. Like you said, you have to know if you're fixing a foot right now or if you're performing right now. So when we shod that foot at the beginning of the season, we were fixing a foot. Now we're at the end of the season and tomorrow he has to compete in the biggest game of his life. We shoe for biomechanics. We shoe for optimum ground interaction. We shoe for comfort. We shoe for this even ground reaction force distribution. Okay. But we can do that because we created a healthy foot. If we look on the right, this is a foot that's compromised. We have a poor back of the foot. We have a long toe, low heel. And we've shot it 50. I've shot it 50-50 around the center rotation, right?
Hold on. Now, so wouldn't you agree that foot radiographically would look a lot like the ones that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But what you can notice is that I haven't touched the dorsal wall. Because shoeing 50-50 around the center of rotation is not about robbing the toe. Okay, that's not what 50-50 is about. 50-50 is about providing the support and the length to the back of the foot that's compromised. Don't rob Peter to pay Paul. But the other thing that it does is it changes the ground reaction forces. So as you can see, because we shod 50-50 around the center of rotation, yes, it increases the ground reaction forces at the toe, which means that this foot on a soft surface is going to sink in at the toe, right? But at this point in time, that doesn't matter because at this point in time, we're trying to fix the foot, right? So at this point in time, this ground reaction force distribution enables us to build a healthy back of the foot. So this is where understanding the different proportions and how it changes the interaction with the ground changes your understanding of when to use what proportions when. And that's kind of what you did without even realizing it, is when you were creating comfort, building up the back of the foot with 50-50 and those kind of things. But then he was performing better in the other shoes. So, and then you worked out, so it's about, this is a message for everybody at home, I hope, is, and it's your words, is what are we shoeing for, right? Are we shoeing for rehabilitating a foot? If we're shoeing for rehabilitating the back of a foot, then we can use ground reaction forces to our advantage. But if we're shoeing for a performance horse, then we have to optimize ground reaction forces. So, but this is why also it's important to understand that journey that you were saying about, and understand that if you want to perform later on, you need to fix this foot now, because otherwise, if you don't shoe it a certain way now, when it needs to perform, you're not going to have the foot that's good enough to shoe the way that you want to shoe it to get that performance. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what are you thinking?
Man, I think I want to tell people that if you go to the App Store, you can look for Hoof M app, and that's where you can draw these cool lines around the center of articulation. You can do center of rotation, or most importantly, you could do point of balance.
The point of balance and center of articulation actually are very, very close. So that's
yeah. So Yogi and his buddy actually wrote this amazing paper on it. So if you're into that and you want to read it, you can learn so much about that. But what we're trying to do today is give you some practical applications to a very in-depth topic that Yogi and I have committed a lot of our adult lives to. So I think if you want to know what I think, I'm just looking at this polo horse's foot and I'm just thinking, my goodness, that is good. And but if you really want to know, like, we shoe a lot of barrel racing horses as well as other stuff, a lot of it. But when you can get a foot to sink evenly into the ground, I think about how much easier would that be to compete at a high level. And I don't care if it's polo, I don't care if it's rein cow horses. I truly don't care. At the high level, like, there isn't room for slip, trip, stumble. And if you get off center, I mean, think about you and I, like, if say we're playing beach volleyball or something like that, where the ground is similar to an arena, you know, like a little misstep, a little off balance, and you are way affected by it, right?
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about what I think, I see that foot and I think about how center of rotation shoeing looks so good radiographically and is preached by so many because the horse on the right needs it badly. But the horse on the left does not need that, and the juice is not worth the squeeze, is another American saying for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, if you look at that foot, if you think what you'd have to do to create 50-50 around the center of rotation on that foot, actually you'd end up having to give it a load of length that it doesn't need because the back of the foot's nice and strong, or you'd have to rob this beautiful toe. Like, why would you want to create 50-50 around that foot anyway? Like, on the center of rotation, I mean.
Well, I think
the other thing is, sorry, go on, you carry on.
No, you go.
The other thing is we have to understand is that if we go back to this, yeah, what we have to understand also, if I was to shoe 50-50 around the center rotation on this polo horse, every time his body weight came over his foot, his toe would sink into the floor. And what does this pitch of the foot increase strain in? The suspensory, right?
Yeah, back up to your other slide too.
This one?
No. First one. Again? Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Doesn't that tell the story? I feel like it tells a story for me.
Well, so I'm talking about the suspensory, right? So,
right, but you're also
one of the biggest injuries in polo, and I think you mentioned it in barrels as well, right?
I think I've heard it. I've heard it in every industry.
Yeah. So suspensory injuries is a big problem, and if we understand that shoeing 50-50 around the center of rotation actually creates this situation, then if we've got a horse playing high level sport, galloping along on turf, and that toe is sinking into the ground and overloading that suspensory every single step, then there's no wonder why, when so many people are chasing center rotation shoeing, that there's so many suspensory issues. And that was something that we found with our polo horses, was when we stopped shoeing them around center rotation and we shod them around point of balance, we had 75% less suspensory issues. It was incredible.
That is
and
that is a good stat.
yeah, I mean, it was incredible. So that's something to think about, as well. Is that's going to affect performance, and that affects longevity as well. So, but the other thing we have to remember, Lee, also, is shoeing cycle length, right? Because if we shoe them around point of balance, they're only shod around point of balance at the time that they're shod, right? Because as soon as the foot starts growing, so our polo horses are shod every 28 days max. Because if you're on the longer the shoeing cycle as well, the closer to center of rotation you have to shoe, because the foot's moving out of balance straight away. So that's the other thing.
Just being proactive is what you're talking about.
So you have to think about the length of the shoeing cycle too,
so that it looks good at the end of the shoeing cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's why in our business we do 5 weeks or nothing, and if we have some situations that are tough, we'll do them at 4 weeks, and then you have nail hole issues, but that just a little different shoeing style, and you're all good there. Yeah. I'm not afraid to recycle a nail hole, is how I would answer that.
Oh, I know, for sure. Why would you? Like, if it's a good strong nail hole, use it again. For sure.
But another thing that I think, how we get into this mess, I think that should be our ending conversation here, is how we get into this mess is that, I say there's a lot of pressure on farriers because is it a common joke over there that the farrier or that the vet wants more length of shoe? They're looking at the x-ray and they want a longer shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here too.
Yeah. They always want more length, and they always want a shorter toe.
So what I've found with that though is that they say that because they want better proportions, or they say that because they want a better angle. And it's just the reality. Shoeing is not their job. Yeah, they're trying to help the horse, and probably they just misspoke. But the reality in my experience is that more length has caused more problems. I mean, it might help a few individuals, but more length crushes heels, hurts heels, loses shoes. I mean, if I was going to spend time focusing on something, it would be a better trim and a better fit at the front half of the foot than being caught up with all this length out the back. What do you think?
Yeah. I think we have to. The other problem is on that with what the vets ask for often is that they thinking in 2 dimensions as well, right? Because they want the proportions around the center of rotation or whatever. They're thinking of the base length. Very often is all you have to do is if you improve the phalangeal alignment, you don't have to add any more length, because if you go think back to my trigonometry thing, that's the other thing as well. So sometimes you have to educate on the fact that actually, if we just correct the trim, repitch the foot, or add a little bit of height, then actually it's not about the base length anymore. It's about the pitch of the foot. It's about the 3D, the 3-dimensional relationship, not just the base proportions. So I think that's another problem, is that with the 2-dimensional thinking, it's either rob the toe or give loads of heel, when actually it's a 3-dimensional thing sometimes.
Absolutely. So we got a great question here from Bart. So how to find point of balance? So Yogi, this one, I'm going to let you go with this one, but my take home message is, that's why I told you guys to get this app. because it is so easy, and it doesn't matter if you're doing it on radiographs or if you're doing it on the hoof capsule itself, like these pictures. But Yogi, why don't you show them on the hoof right here on both images, and then back up to the one of my shoeing that you did.
Yeah, so on the template that we created in Hoof Map, which you can see goes along the hairline, we have a circle, the green circle, we have a big notch and a small notch, right? The big notch is the point of balance. The small notch is the center of rotation. The front of the green circle is the extensor process of the navicular, of the pedal bone. And the back of the green circle is where your navicular sits. So this template actually tells you where all of the internal anatomy is on the foot. And we've tested that radiographically. I've published papers on testing all of that. And this was actually the center of rotation being 1/3 of the hairline was actually from Jim Ferry back in 2007, I think it was. So this has been around for a long time. But the point of balance is something that Uno, my friend Uno, he's a PhD physicist. He did some calculations, which you can read our paper. So that's Lee kindly pointed to it earlier. But the point of balance is something that we calculated mathematically according to physics. But it's easy for people to find because we've got it on the template. And if you're thinking about it in terms of base proportions, it would basically, instead of 50-50 around center of rotation, it'd simply be 45-55. So it's pretty simple that way. So if we go back to Lee's slides.
This will explain it really well, Bart. And also, if you have more questions, get them in because we're winding down right now. So now's the time.
So if you look, you can see when you put the template on, the little notch corresponds with center rotation, and the big notch is the point of balance. So that's the point at which, if you create base proportions around that point, that's where you get the equal ground reaction force distribution. So, and that's what Lee did here. He shot around point of balance quite nicely. Beautiful job.
So before we move on, Bart, did that answer your question? Comment, let us know. But give us an explanation. You know, like, I know you're trying to, this is one of the smartest men I've ever met. So he's trying so hard right now not to dive deep.
I'm trying to put it in easy terms. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and we're going to have lots of these videos coming up. This is so much fun. But give us a brief explanation, 1 page or less. What is point of balance? How is it different from Duckett's dot? Without getting in the weeds here, how is it different from neutral balance mapping?
Okay, so a point of balance, and this was calculated, like I said, by my friend. So I'm the co-author on the paper, but it's his calculations. If you calculate the weight of the horse coming down the leg, and you add that to the pull of the deep digital flexor tendon, because they're the two major forces acting on the digit when it's at mid stance. Yeah. The weight of the horse coming down and the pull of the deep digital flexor tendon. That creates a situation where the weight of the horse is transferred through the foot at the point of balance. Okay. So basically, the point of balance is the point at which the body weight of the horse is coming through the foot. Does that make sense? So in order to create equilibrium, in order for the foot not to pitch either way, you need to have the ground reaction force, the center of your shoe, meet that weight coming down, right? Because if those 2 points meet, then you don't have a rotational force. It's like a seesaw, right? If you shoe around the center of rotation, then this one is going this way and this one's coming this way. So you have rotation. Right? So that's why the toe sinks in, because you do this. Does that make sense? So the weight of the horse coming down this way has to be met by the ground reaction forces coming up this way. When those two meet, you have a point of zero moment. You have no turning force on the digit. Does that make sense?
Nailed it. I'm so proud of you. You
Okay,
got
thank
that
you, man.
so quick.
I did my best to put it in easy terms.
You
But
need,
it's biomechanics. It's moments and lever arms. Okay, the two forces have to meet. When they meet, you have a point of zero moment. You have no turning force, and that's what you want the foot to be in a position of when the weight of the horse comes over, so then it doesn't tip.
absolutely. So that's where, like, I think a lot of us farriers have had that moment, you know, where they're like, well, if a little's good, let's do a little more because that'll be even better. And being
Yeah,
proactive is good, but to a point. And I think that is absolutely a great explanation of what could go wrong with that, right? Because
yeah,
that mid stance is what we're talking about.
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
horse tipping forward if she's shod at center of rotation.
yeah. And it comes down to this, right? So two forces have to meet. So as you change the base proportions, this moves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yep,
So,
yep.
so just because short is good, then if you go even shorter, then you're missing the 2 points are missing again.
Now you're talking
Okay.
about now you're talking about point of pressure and how it drifts
Yeah.
audio
So your
through the
base
cycle.
your base proportions affect the bottom finger. Okay. Your base
Mm-hmm.
proportions affect where this bottom finger is. The top finger doesn't move. Point of balance doesn't move. The bottom finger does. So your base proportions move this bottom finger. So it has to be in the right place. Your base proportions have to be right. Too much and you go the other way. So you create a moment force this way or a moment force this way. So that's why they have to meet.
See here, we got another question from Tyler from
Yeah,
YouTube. See it?
go. I can't see it. I don't know
What are
why I
your
can't.
What are your opinions on Cobit?
That's an interesting question because Cobit, we're actually Uno, my friend, the guys who made Cobit, we're actually doing a study together now because we want to show, because Cobit essentially tells you the point of balance, right? Because if your foot sits on a fulcrum and doesn't tip, then that must be the point of balance. Makes sense, right? Because on a so Cobit tells you where the point of balance is. So we're actually going to do a study now to validate that, to check that that's true. So Cobit, it's it's very useful. Personally, I might change my mind, but personally, I don't use it because it's something else you have to add on to the foot. You can calculate the point of balance without having to use extra machinery. um, but the point of it is that Cobit should tell you where the point of balance is because it creates zero moment. It creates a point where there's no rotation.
Yeah, Yogi, if you want to feel like this was worth it right now,
Yeah.
Anna from Facebook says, that's the greatest simple explanation of point of balance I've heard.
Yay!
Finally makes sense! Exclamation.
Good. I'm glad.
That's
I
awesome,
mean,
man.
that's so I'm not the best because I have a particular way of verbalizing scientific stuff, but this is why we're going to make a great team, Lee, because you're going to pull it out of me.
Yeah,
you're going to pull it out. You're going to make me say it in more simple terms, which is fantastic because it's good for me to be able to practice that as well. So I'm really excited for that. That's cool.
Yeah. So Anna, thank you so much for getting on and saying that. That kind of validates. That honestly, if you really want to know the point of this whole thing, that was the whole point of this thing. So that's good.
So Connor's asked, is there an easy external visual reference point you would recommend for POB? Connor, do you mean on the solar surface, bud? Because if you use the hoof map template, that gives you a visual reference point. But I'm assuming you mean on the solar. Is that what you mean?
Let's come back to him while he's Connor. Please reply. I'm sure you can hear us right now. My buddy Jimmy Petty, he was at the summit. This is a great man, great farrier. He says, awesome, guys. I've had my phone in my shoebox and listened to you through the big speaker while I was working.
Thanks, buddy.
So that is good stuff.
Lee,
here we go.
Did you feel, coronary band? Yeah, 1/4 of the coronary band, Connor, and that's where it's positioned on the template is 1/4. Yeah. Yeah, and like you correctly said, it's pretty much the center of articulation. But importantly, this is very important. It's the center of articulation of the middle phalanx, not the distal phalanx. Okay, the center of articulation of the distal phalanx will move according to phalangeal alignment. A solar visual point, Connor, would be 45-55 around center of rotation. So you would map center of rotation, and then instead of being 50-50 around center of rotation, you'd be 55-45. Hopefully that makes sense there for you.
Definitely made sense to me.
Cool.
That's good stuff. You know, if you guys, that's my wife. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
She went to a rodeo on her young horse and is winning it currently.
Oh, fantastic. Lee, do you think there's anything else that I could do with explaining a bit better?
No, I think we got it. Unless if you have any comments, this is last call right now. But also, please comment. We'll all be watching these posts. If you want us to anything else you want us to break down or dive into, let us know. But really appreciate the interaction. That's good stuff.
I just want to say, I want to say thank you to you, Lee, for highlighting the importance of not robbing the toe, because of this thing. Because I have a real pet peeve about. I don't want to come across as an asshole here, right? I can do that sometimes, so I apologize. Because making a foot look aesthetically more upright is not the same as making it biomechanically more efficient.
Oh, that should be on the wall. That's
okay. It's not the same thing. If you dump the dorsal wall to make the foot look more upright, you have not changed the phalangeal alignment, like Lee pointed out. And instead, all you've done is affected the intrinsic biomechanics of the hoof wall, of the hoof capsule. So that's another take-home message, I hope.
Or if you want the very simple terms, I think I said disintegrate.
Yeah.
All right, we have a comment from, I love this guy. He lives in Costa Rica, vet farrier. He started shoeing just for the only reason to help horses. And this is a mountain of a man. And he made a really cool post on Navicular on Facebook. So you don't know, look him up. Ramon Batella. It's from Costa Rica, and I hope you're on the beach right now. His question is,
yeah, go on. You read the question.
You do it. I was talking to my
okay. So Ramon's asked, with all the differences in morphology and geometry, both in hoof capsule and bone anatomy, what makes POB a fixed landmark? It's a fantastic question. So the point of balance is mechanically calculated. I'm gonna try not to be too technical here. Right? It's mechanically calculated in relation to center of rotation. Okay, and importantly, it is not a solar landmark, because a solar landmarks drift in relation to internal anatomy in changes in phalangeal alignment. I know I can talk a little bit more technically for Ramon because he's a clever guy. Okay, so if we look at the points along the hairline, if we look at center of rotation and we look at point of balance and we look at center of articulation as well, there was a post that I did the other day that showed if you use landmarks along the hairline or within P2 rather than P3, they remain consistent with changes. The hoof moves around them. Okay, so they are consistent. They are consistent datum points. So because it's calculated along the hairline and in relation to center of rotation, it's a consistent landmark. hopefully that answers your question, Ramon. If you need me to explain it any more than that, please do ask. But that's specifically why it's not a solar landmark, because solar landmarks drift in relation to internal anatomy.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah. But yes, makes total sense. Short version, can't go off the sole because those landmarks drift. Coronary band doesn't lie. Check.
Yeah, and point of balance is calculated in relation to center of rotation, and center of rotation we all know is a static landmark. So it's they move with each other. If you put a rocker toe on a foot, can it have negative effects?
That's Jeb Hunt. That's my right-hand man, by the way. Jeb, you're amazing.
Well, do you want to answer that, Lee, or shall I answer that?
He knows what I think.
Do you want me to answer it?
He knows what I think.
I think, Jeb, in all honesty, I think anything that a farrier does can have a negative effect if it's not applied correctly. Is the short answer. Everything in farriery comes down to application, for sure. I mean, without going through all of the potential negative effects, if I just said that, hopefully that answers the question. It all comes down to application. In general, I think a rocker toe, I think by rocker toe you mean like what's in these images, right? Rather than
yes.
Yeah. In general, I unless you take too much sole or burn the horse or whatever, I can't see there being many negative effects. I think rocker toes are great for mechanics. Understanding that mechanics obviously only really work on hard surfaces. Perhaps that's an important thing. Is if you have a horses that are working on penetrable surfaces, and you shoot and you have a long toe and you try to address it with just a rocker toe, and you think that that's going to make the difference, it's not, because that rocker toe becomes obsolete as soon as that foot sinks into a soft surface.
Don't you think, though, the problem with center of rotation was in a standing position, right? So wouldn't that greatly help the horse the 98% of its day, though?
Oh, yeah. So, but I mean, if you're shoeing a performance horse that's working on soft surfaces and you're shoeing for mid stance when that foot is under maximum load, that's when the injuries are going to happen, right? Injuries are going to happen under maximum load. So I'm not talking about shoeing for morphology. I'm talking about shoeing for protecting soft tissues under maximum load. So if you're shoeing, if you're thinking that you've shortened the lever arm on a soft surface by putting a rocker toe on to protect soft tissues, but that foot sinks into the ground by the depth of the rocker toe, then you haven't shortened the lever arm. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that I would caution people against is thinking that mechanics. You have to think about surface compliance when you think about mechanics. Put it simply.
Right on. We got another question here. Can you say that name? Because I can't.
McCoy? I don't know. Lovely name.
Great name.
Great name. So position of P2 due to alignment could make core so fragile as orientation. I'm not following the question. Sorry. Are you following? Can you work that one out?
So the position of P2 due to alignment could make center rotation so fragile as orientation. So I think I would assume that means mid stance. Can you correct us on that, by the way? So yes. Well, she's just bony column alignment, really, not more than just P2 at mid stance is the issue. Correct? The whole foot is tipping forward.
I think he's asking if the position of P2 changes, does that make center of rotation a movable datum point?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I think that's what he's asking.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a good question, because although I said that the base proportions drift in relation to center of rotation, when you have poor alignment, center of rotation functionally moves backwards and down in relation to the capsule as well, which is why you have to think about things three-dimensionally. Yeah, because sometimes it's not about, like I said, it's not about more length or more toe length or more heel length. It's actually about moving the center of rotation up and forward by fixing the phalangeal alignment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so if you have poor alignment, the center of rotation functionally moves backwards and downwards. And that's only fixed by changing the heel to toe height ratio. So sometimes if you fix the heel to toe height ratio, you move the center of rotation up and forwards in relation to the capsule. So you always have to weigh up how much of this is to do with toe length and heel length versus phalangeal alignment. I'm hoping that makes sense. It's always easier with images to show how it moves. Maybe we can do that next time. We can talk about the moving of center of rotation. Maybe we can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll try to get our videos to play too.
Yeah.
That's what I feel bad about the video not working too, because I feel like if we could have saw that video of that horse, that not only did the sole depth look good, the last one, and the heels were healthy, the whole thing was healthy. And I think that is truly the take-home message, is that you just don't get to pick one part and go after it, or for center rotation, or for whatever. And that's why point of balance is so important, is because when that is in alignment, the whole hoof is in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ramon is back. Said, good stuff, my friends. Thank you for both of this. Thank you both for this. I really enjoyed it. We'll discuss more on these fascinating topics in the future, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's on a beach at his house. We should have.
Yeah, we're coming to you. We're coming to Costa Rica, Ramon. The next video is at Ramon's house.
That sounds good. All right. We got one last question, unless somebody gets in here. Oh, it's not even a question. Angie says, thank you for constantly learning and doing so much to improve the comfort and health of the horse. I'm not a farrier, but I watch both of you as much as I can. That is awesome.
That is so cool. Thank you, Angie.
Well, I hope farriers and horse owners are watching too, because this is it takes a team, and I feel like the horse owner's got to be on board, the vet and farrier, and this is good stuff. Yeah,
I'm excited for this, Lee. I think this is gonna be fun, man. I think you're gonna do change the way I talk about things as well, which is going to be really good for me. So thank you for that, brother.
Yeah, you bet. Your insight is good. And if you don't have his app, get it. It is Hoof Little M app on the App Store. And it makes things really easy. And make sure you comment and ask us or tell us what you'd like to see more of. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think I think we definitely want to hear from everyone else what they want us to talk about. Would be fab, wouldn't it, to understand what they want us to talk about. So please, guys, do let us know. And any of my audience who are not already following Lee, please do so. His practical mind is absolutely fantastic, the way he thinks about his shoeing and stuff like that. So any of my guys, make sure you go and follow Lee. And I'm really looking forward to more of this. So,
and I don't think I have to say that if you want a deeper dive on anything that I do, Yogi is the man for the job. equinedocumentalist.com. He's got courses, lots of cool stuff. Connor, oh, there we go. Got two more. Connor
loved it. Great job. Thanks, buddy.
Say that name, Yogi. Your turn.
Yeah. Is it French?
It must be.
Yeah.
Can we get an understanding of how to say your name better? I think that's what I really want to get from this.
Yeah, we need like a.
But you're welcome. I'm glad you came on, and thank you so much for commenting. Connor wants suspensory injury and treatment protocol. That's
Very good one, that is, Connor, because there's a lot of misunderstanding suspensory injuries, especially in hind feet. So that's a really good subject, that is. So looking forward to that.
That is a good subject. That the hind end is a whole different animal than the front end, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly is. Cool.
Jackie says, love this. Thank you both so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Oh, we got a
maculateur. There you go.
Definitely French. Is that French?
Yeah. Yeah, I think of it.
All right. Well,
I think we're done then, aren't we, Lee? First one done.
Yeah, I think it went pretty good for trial by fire. We just kind of winged this. We had some points and just kind of let it rip. So
yeah, we'll finesse it, won't we? But I think it was definitely a great start. So
absolutely, and I don't like to end my videos without saying something that might be offensive to you, because I like to say God bless America. But you're from England, right?
Yeah, I'm from England, but I want God to bless everyone, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you got me. Way to make it look bad. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I hope you have a great day, and thank you, Yogi.
And you, buddy. Thank you very much. Loved it.